What up, it's your boy Nick Incredible, and I am back at it again, and this is my discussion/review for Star Trek Strange New Worlds Episode 9, titled All Those Who Wonder. Let's talk about it. Going into this episode, I was thoroughly shocked, and I had a fun time watching it, but I didn't expect it to go the way or the route that it went. I did not see that coming, and that's one thing I can give props for, man. When something surprises me, I am thoroughly intrigued, because after watching so much stuff and reviewing things and looking at stuff through different goggles, if you will, I can just kind of spot some stuff a mile away, but like to be thoroughly surprised sometimes is nice and enjoyable at the same time, because we see this episode starting off and we get that voiceover with Uhura, and we see and hear her kind of mentioning, well, her full rotation is done, and the Enterprise is headed back to Earth, and she's gonna get off the ship. She's done because she doesn't really feel like she fits in with the Enterprise, and she doesn't want to be there anymore. And throughout the episode, we learn the reason why she feels like this, and more so is because she doesn't want to lose anybody or have them leave her. So she'll be the first one to leave, so she doesn't really have to deal with that hurt. And that's kind of something that kind of played throughout the entire season so far with her character. And I'm not mad at that, because at the end of the episode, we see, after some stuff done happened, we see that she's dealing with everything, and we see her kind of walk into the deck and see everything kind of going on, and she's looking at her iconic location, and we know what's upcoming. So I feel like the entire season thus far has been her prelude, if you will. I'm saying? It's kind of just getting her set up and getting her ready, and we get to see her in her cadet, because that's what she was this entire season. She's been a cadet, and we get to see that prelude to her becoming the star that we see in the original series. And I feel like that was nice. I like the way that they done it. We didn't really get thrown into everything. We get to see her and Spock kind of go through some trials and tribulations before they become their legendary, iconic selves. And seeing that with Uhura is something that was very, very nice. We got a lot of Spock play during Discovery, so that's not much going on with Spock this season. He's dealing with different aspects, but it was nice to get all of that with Uhura, to see her going through those trials, trying to find out where she fits in. And at the end of the episode, we see her looking at her iconic location. It was like, yep, that's where I'm gonna sit at. You know what I'm saying? So it was nice to kind of have that build up over the course of the entire season. I want to say we may get like 10 episodes. I feel like this might be 10 episodes, especially with this season 1 anyway. After the episode kicked off with the voiceover for Uhura, we kind of jump into this party for her and another cadet and someone else that's being promoted, and they're just getting, just some celebration going on. And they also find out that they have another mission along with the mission that they're already on, and they have to go to another planet, and they want to assist what is this ship, the Peregrine or something like that. I think that's the name of the ship. Assist this ship that they can't get in contact with, so Starfleet sends them because they're just a little bit closer to take on this whole mission, if you will, even though they already have a mission. So what I love is that we get to see these two random cadet people that we have. I don't remember them. I'm gonna be 100%. They might have appeared here and there. They pop up in this episode, and we see these two random people, and I'm like, okay, well, what's going on with these two random people? And then Pike mentions that they're going to take on both missions, because he's talking with everybody in charge, and they're going to take on both missions. And then he was like, well, this is the perfect opportunity. I'll bring all of the cadets with me on one final hoorah mission before they go back to Earth. In that moment, I knew that they were gonna die. I'm gonna just be 100%, because they're not special, they're not important. So we knew that they were gonna be the ones to be sacrificed. They were gonna be the sacrificial lambs in this episode with the stuff that was going on. And so we get to this planet. It looks all creepy and dreary, and it's ice, and it's freezing, it's dark, everybody's cold. It's a miserable time on this planet, just being real. So they get to the ship to check everything out, and all over the place they find bodies, blood, severed limbs, and everything. So something's going on this planet. Then they get into the ship's logs, and they find out that there's more stuff pertaining to the Gorn. Now, with the stuff that's going on with the Gorn this episode, I did not see them handing it out this way, if you will. This felt like a legitimate sci-fi movie-esque episode, if you will. Like normally, we deal with some canny stuff, or some quirky stuff that's going on with sci-fi and Star Trek and everything, but it doesn't really get quite scary. You know what I'm saying? Like this was like literally jump scares, and there was a moments where I was, oh my gosh, no. You know what I'm saying? Like they definitely had their alien moment, even though they are in space and they deal with aliens on the regular. They had their aliens moment. With the stuff popping, the Gorns popping out of everybody's body, which was fantastic. And that's where we're going to talk about this little girl. Now, don't come after me saying, well, how can you feel that way about this innocent little girl? Screw that little girl, man. Look, I know that she's traumatized because we know that La'an is traumatized and terrified of the Gorn because of what happened to her when she was a kid. Now, she's seeing a counselor now to kind of just deal with a lot of that, and big ups on La'an for that, but we know it still messes with her just a little bit. So I get that this little girl is terrified and scared and everything, and she thought that the first people from the USS Peregrine, or whatever it's called, were going to actually help her, and we know how that went. So her being a little skeptical, I understand that, but you knew what was taking place when you saw old dude that was her what was his name? I can't remember. Anyway, the little blue guy that was her friend that was protecting her. She knew that, once they started sweating and these little red vein things popped all up on them, she knew what was about to happen, because in that moment she took and looked and was like, what's going on? Oh, okay. And she hid, covered her mouth, and got out of the room and left old girl to die. Now, Chapel went to check on some other stuff, so we knew Chapel wasn't going to die because she's a main star. But this other chick, oh, she was a sacrifice for sure. Like, anyway, when they got off the Enterprise, I knew that they were writing their death certificates from the jump. Okay, we knew that they weren't important to live long or prosper. So this chick dies, man, and we have that whole alien moment with the things jumping out of dude's body, and I was like, no. And they felt like aliens with the whole aspect when they run around the ship, and when they even got I want to say the dude's name was Dent, like Lieutenant Dent, if I'm not mistaken. We even see, like, when they grabbed him, it kind of looked like the alien aspect. The only thing is, they just didn't do the whole face thing. It was like they were about this big, and they were jumping on them and killing them and stuff like that. And we see that this kind of gives Spock a little different feeling this episode, because we ended up talking about rage and everything with this episode, and we see that Samuel Kirk also kind of threw that at Spock a little bit after Dent died. He was like, you don't feel anything, you're just a machine, because Spock was feeling some type of way. You're like, well, this is intriguing, they don't appear on any of our scans. And I get that, he's the scientific officer, that's true. Kirk was out there. Kirk is the everyman. Samuel is out there feeling what we're all feeling. Man, let's get up out of here, man. Screw this ship, screw this planet, screw everything. Let's just burn it and leave, man. I am done. I'm with Samuel Kirk on this. Let's just leave. He's like, when it was like, well, no, we got to fix everything. We're going to stay on the ship because it's nice and warm. Well, at least we all die together, all nice and warm. I enjoyed Samuel Kirk, man. We don't get a lot of him, but when we get him, his presence is definitely felt in every episode. What Spock is, he's dealing with a lot of anger and rage and everything. And that moment when they're trying to trap the Gorn and Spock just let loose and just goes full on rage monster. Okay, I see you, Spock. I see you. It also played a very heavy role at the funeral at the end of the episode when we see Spock really couldn't quite take it, and he had to leave, and Chapel went to, kind of console him a little bit. Now, what I loved about this is because this is the first time that we see Spock and Chapel, last week's episode episode 8 didn't really count, so this is the first time we see Spock and Chapel, like, together after the whole kiss moment, seeing them actually interact with each other. It's a little weird, but not a lot, because we know that Spock is, logical when it comes to these things, and Chapel didn't really, we know that how she feels, but she doesn't really just lean more into it, so not to really just confuse Spock, because, he's a logical thinker. But it was nice to see them in that moment, even when they hugged at the end of the episode. She didn't really lean more into it, and Spock kind of hugged her for a moment and then kind of just abruptly stopped. But it was nice to have those few seconds where they kind of just and had that nice little moment. But all of that out of the way, man, after we're dealing with all of the Gorn and everybody being attacked and everything, man, and those two cadets, well, that one cadet and the one lieutenant, I feel some type of way, man, because this episode, Hemmer sacrificed himself. The Gorn spits a little goo out, and that's what I'm assuming that kind of like incapacitates you maybe, and it also is how they reproduce. And it was gonna hit Uhura, but Himmer stepped in the way, took all the little goo stuff, and it didn't seem to affect him throughout the episode until like right there at the end we see that it started to mess with him, and we found out that's how they reproduce with the little Gorns. And I didn't see Himmer's death coming, man. I mean, I should have expected something with maybe the little goo stuff, him being attacked or whatever. And then especially the way that he was talking to Uhura, you know what I'm saying? It felt like a goodbye speech throughout the entire episode. It felt like we knew that she was thinking about leaving, but it didn't feel like that. It felt like Himmer was leaving, and I didn't let my mind go there, man, because, you know, Himmer was an integral part of the crew, and he sacrificed himself to save Uhura in that moment. And he, you know, I don't want to say killed himself, but, you know, kind of just threw himself off the ship and into the cold to kill the Gorn so they wouldn't hurt anybody else on the ship. And everybody was heartbroken, man. And you could tell it messed Spock up at the ending of the episode, but everybody was just heartbroken, and you can feel it, man. Like a lot of times, like when the character dies on screen, you're like, oh, well, okay, well, man, that's sad that they died, but, you know, I mean, I get it. But, you know, Himmer was one of those deaths. Like, I didn't cry, but I did feel emotional with his death. And then, you know, the way that he kind of just stood there, and it was like, oh, this reminds me of Andorra. And, you know, he kind of just threw himself off the ship. And it was heartbreaking, and I did not expect it. And I liked it, and I didn't like it at the same time, man. But this episode gave me so much more, and I gotta give big ups to Star Trek on this one, man. I really, really enjoyed it. Yet again, it had splices of comedy, but like it was super serious, and it got a little creepy at the same time. It got a little scary, got a little suspenseful. It had a little bit of everything with this episode. And at the ending of the episode, we see that La'an tells Pike that she's actually going to leave to help this little girl find her family. So not only did we lose Himmer, we're also losing La'an, even though she's going off on a journey, man. It feels so heartbreaking. I mean, I guarantee you there's only 10 episodes, but we get these 9 episodes, man, and you know, we've gotten to enjoy this crew, love this crew, and we lost 2 integral members in 1 episode, man. And I will say this, at the funeral, all these people was mentioning stuff about Himmer, but nobody said nothing about these other I mean, I know Himmer was part of the core group, but I mean, come on, man. These other 2 members, they were part of the crew too, and nobody said anything about these people. This is what incredible. Don't forget to smash the like button so you can't smash any more. Comment down below, and I'll be sure to respond to each and every one of them and subscribe, but only if you really want to. Peace out.
I'm doing my